I'm going to give you some quick thoughts on the new K2 Dispatch Pro versus the Scarpa Quattro XT. I've skied both probably about 5 days each, with about, I want to say at least 5K-ish per day. And I have some initial thoughts for you. These boots couldn't be more different as far as fit. The Quattro is very svelte, very low volume over the foot overall. K2, as you can see, side by side, much higher volume. Much bigger boot too. You can see side cuff height there, literally almost an inch higher. I have, well, without modification, the rear is also at least a half-inch higher on the K2 Pro. The front of the cuff, this is maybe a smidge higher stock. However, I added this, which gives me much more. But you get a lot more lateral support out of the K2. So it's more responsive feeling. Scarpa is Grillamid, so it's stiffer feeling off the top. With this tongue in that I got from Pulse Labs, the stiffness feels the same, except for this feels like it has better suspension. It's made out of P-backs, provides a little bit better rebound, whereas this just feels like you're just hitting a wall of bricks. This boot went crappy with the buckles, with annoying wire buckles that don't lock forward and come undone easy and feel cheap. However, it does come with the best strap of anything that I've had. It's a legitimate, it is a rebranded booster strap. Actually elastic, very nice, high quality. So kudos there. This one has cheap power strap, but effective, just simple nylon. But it has good buckles that also can lock forward, which is actually very nice. The buckles are way better than the Scarpas, which is a big selling point for me. Scarpa went with a lower pivot point, which is a little interesting. That's something that we actually more see out of, like full tilt, Dalbello, etc. K2's is higher, which is interesting because K2 just acquired full tilt, so you would think that they would have adopted something like that. However, that's kind of like a very niche argument about what performs better. In reality, like I said, with this little tongue in there, this boot provides the same stiffness for me. Scarpa really screwed the pooch here with their lock lever. This is it open. Then you just flip that guy, throw it forward, and then it's locked in. The problem is that when it's open, it's not open that much. That gets packed with powder, and then it becomes very painful to close because not many scrapers can reach back in there and clear it out to get it to close all the way. So I've actually had that happen a couple times. It's the worst closure of any closure that I've used in a boot, which is unfortunate. Down to the bottom of the boot, we have a grip walk, which sucks. Interesting thing about grip walk is that it neither grips nor walks well. However, this, as compared to the bolt-on versions, does walk slightly better. But to interface with bindings better, you can see how the lug kind of comes out here, and then it's flat here. This feels clunky to walk in. It doesn't feel pleasant to walk in. Now, I will say that this is the most friction-free cuff pivot that I've had. This boot, through the first, half to 2/3 of the range of motion, actually feels truly friction-free, like a 1,000-gram boot. So this boot feels much speedier on the skin track as compared to the K2, regardless of what liner's in it, specifically because of that. The K2 has a full Vibram rubber outsole that is subtly rockered, and it walks way better. This is just, a way better mountain boot. It feels beefier, the buckles are beefier, everything about it feels better. And it's also, I would just say, twice as warm. So I have a little shim in there right now, but you can see off to the side that it has this yellow honeycomb boot board, and that thing is super warm. Feet are very warm in this boot. This has no full-length boot board. Can't even see in there right now. No full-length boot board. In the half sizes, it includes one heel shim. You can see in the front, I've added an additional heel shim. You see that marked 27? They put that in the half sizes in between boots. Anyway, way colder. Let's look at shell weight. The shell weight of the K2 is actually less. Okay, so this is 2 3/4 and 2 ounces. Okay, but that's with this aftermarket piece of P-backs. This with wire buckles, and they both have shims in them that are probably equal weight, is, you know, okay, it's 2.5 ounces less. However, when you look at them side by side, if you include the lateral plastic, okay, you're getting way more coverage with the K2. The K2 goes much further up your leg, provides a much more supportive skiing experience. And that's even without the addition that I had. Liners. This is the Scarpa liner. This is how they save weight on this. That's 9 ounces. The K2's liner is 10.5. Now, this is really interesting. Let's look at them side by side. This is same size. Do you see how much taller the K2 is? That's several inches taller laterally. In the front, maybe half an inch taller. Rear, probably the same. This is a much more supportive liner. I can't even run this because it sits so low, and if you feel the bottom has no resistance. The top is good, but it's just a very thin liner overall, whereas this is much beefier. It also has a boa, so you can tighten it. Not necessarily sold on that, but this overall is a quality liner. It's one of the few liners that I have not immediately gone to Intuition, although, spoiler alert, you can see that I'm running Intuition tour wraps and everything. So who are they for? Like I said, K2 I think is going to be a really good boot for people who have taller legs or who are taller in general, because it will provide more support throughout their leg. It is a little soft, even in the Pro model. Adding this is a game changer. Highly recommended. It's like $50. It just bolts on through the buckles. Super easy. This is, like I said, shell weight is the same. I was kind of surprised by that. It is a stiffer boot. However, it sits lower. So for me, where it provides pressure on my shin doesn't feel good. And I had to resort to actually putting the K2's liners in it to raise the front cuff height, essentially, to distribute the pressure better. It's got cheaper buckles, and it's got a sole that doesn't make sense. So I really like how this feels on the skin track because of how friction-free it is for the first, half to 2/3 of the cuff. It feels excellent. So Scarpa's figured out something that I really like. I also prefer the fit, and this is just personal preference, of the lower shell here. This is a little too high volume for me, but it's fine. I can crank it down, and it's workable, especially with different liners. This boot, I would say, is more for generally shorter people that want a really stiff boot that need grip walk specifically for whatever binding they're choosing to use. I don't need grip walk, and so the fact that this feels super sketchy in all mountain kind of experience, walking on ice, putting on crampons, walking on rocks, scrambling, it just kind of makes it a deal breaker. It just feels strange, which is a shame because I really like the way this feels. I've heard from my local shop that they're taking a lot of things from this and putting it on next year's Mistrali, and I think that could be the winner. Until then, I'm pretty positive that the K2 is going to be my weapon of choice this year. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is that the K2 has the far superior forward lean adjustment. I've been able to both do it while standing in the boot quite easily because you don't need to fully remove the screws. You can just back them up enough, move this up or down, and re-back them back down without fully removing them. And it also has the widest adjustment of 9, 12, and 15. Which is a couple degrees more than the 15 through 19 that the Quattro offers. To my knowledge, this is the widest adjustment of forward lean available on the market, between 9 and 15.